Hello and welcome back to CNET's live coverage of the Google event. We heard about some new Pixels, a watch. We got word on the tablet. Here joining me, I have Bridget Carey and Lexi Savides. Thank you all for joining us. So first, I want to start with this tablet. I wasn't sure if we were going to hear about it, but we did, and I'm very excited about it as a smart home enthusiast. It looks like the Google Nest Hub, except you can remove the screen. This tablet's got a nano ceramic coating, which is supposed to feel really good to the hands, feels like porcelain. And we hear that it's coming in 2023, but that's all we got. Bridget, what do you think of this thing?
You never get excitement over a tablet, and suddenly they made me excited. They have made a detachable home hub, the Nest Hub. It's attachable now. It's so smart. It's so smart. I mean, they were going on about like, well, yeah, everyone's got a tablet, but it kind of stays in a drawer, and then you forget to charge it, and you got to get the cord for it. No, just put a dock. I love it. I want to see it in different sizes now. Keep it going, Google. This is great. But of course it's like overhyped because it's like, and here it is. And wait till next year. What do you think, Lexi?
I wasn't super surprised to see it. I feel like Google's really teasing us with their whole strategy of marketing and announcing a device like a year and a half before it's probably going to go on sale. We saw it first kind of teased at Google I/O, and now we kind of got a little bit more information about it. I was hoping if they were going to make another like, wow, look, the Pixel tablet's coming, it was going to be a little bit more meaty than what we saw. But admittedly, I'm not a tablet person. I don't really get excited about tablets. Maybe that's sacrilege to say. But, I think wait and see is the approach. But more exciting to me was the whole suite of other products that we're actually getting. Maybe, Justin, you want to run through kind of the top line things and the things that you are most excited about, because I definitely have the one that I'm most pumped about to talk about.
Yeah, well, I know exactly what one you want to talk about first. Let's talk about that one, and that is the Pixel Watch. So here's what we know. It's got 24 hours of battery life, fall detection coming in 2023, emergency SOS, which can help alert family. So the watch is going to be $349 for the Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, $399 if you want that LTE, and it will come with 3 months of YouTube music, 6 months of Fitbit Premium, and they put a lot of emphasis on Fitbit integration. Their very accurate heart tracking, wellness reports, and a sleep score, which as a Fitbit user in the past, that was like my favorite aspect of it. Lexi, what are you most excited for with this watch?
For me, the Pixel Watch really feels like a souped up Fitbit, and it feels like everything that Fitbit has kind of been working towards, except they've now got the added benefit of that kind of Google industrial design. But I guess on the other flip side, you get the Fitbit integration, but you don't get the Fitbit battery life, because Fitbits are really renowned for their multi-day battery life, sometimes up to 6 days, or it's even more for the fitness trackers. So I guess 24 hours total is, not really blowing my mind in terms of overall battery life, but we have to kind of look at the physical size of this too. I think it's really interesting that Google has decided to only make one size, only 41 millimeter case size. So it's definitely going to be on the smaller side of things. And it's almost going kind of in the opposite direction of the trend that we've seen in the smartwatch space in the past 6 months, at least, where everyone's kind of going to go big or go home. Like you've seen on the Android side, at least, there's been the Samsung Galaxy Watch 5 Pro, which is a larger 45 millimeter case size. There's obviously the Apple Watch Ultra, which is a 49 millimeter case watch size. So it's very, very much on the smaller side of the spectrum. I'm just going to adjust my microphone. Just so you can hopefully hear me a little bit better. Let me know if that's any better. But overall, the Pixel Watch for me is just, it's an exciting development to see. I don't know if we've had any kind of whiz-bang wow features that are going to set it apart from other wearables right now. But again, the proof is going to be in the testing process. And I know Lisa, who's going to be, think, reviewing the watch, I'm really excited to see her take on it and see if it's more than just the sum of its parts. Because to me, the Pixel Watch, we've been waiting so long on the Android side for like the true Android smartwatch, because on the Samsung side, it's definitely deviated a lot into just more like a Samsung Google Watch. So I'm really intrigued and I'm still excited about it. Just I need to get my hands on it.
Yeah, it's very exciting. Let's talk about these bezels. We put up a poll on YouTube. Personally, I thought that they were a little big. Let's see what it says. We got 50% saying just right for too big. We got 36% and too small, 12%. So not as harsh as I would expected based off of my own opinion. Bridget, what do you think of the bezels?
I think the whole like dome bubble makes it not a big deal. But of course, you got to see it for yourself in person. You know, you got to play with it. But I do think they leaned into style being a big thing here, and going back to like all this Fitbit integration, I think it was also interesting that they leaned a lot into sleep tracking more than you see in other smartwatch presentations from Apple and others. So yeah, style is what it's all about. So doing round means you're going to have some bezels, right? But having it curved, how much of it is not going to be that noticeable?
Yeah. Also, Lexi, what you were saying about the Fitbit, the 24-hour battery life not being very long compared to the other Fitbit family. I have my favorite thing about when I owned a Fitbit was wearing it for 5 days and not having to charge it. So I was hoping for more battery life with this watch. And I'm also surprised there is no like ultra low battery feature that could extend that battery. We're seeing that on the Apple Watch this year and then also on the Pixel phones, which we'll get into in just a bit. But nonetheless, I am excited, or I'm eager to try out that sleep tracking again on the Google phone. I'm on the Pixel Watch. I miss having that very detailed sleep tracking. I'm not a huge fan of the sleep tracking on the Apple Watch compared to that. But why don't we move on to these Pixel phones? And specifically, I think we should talk about the camera upgrades first, because I think that's where we're seeing the most upgrades. So I'm just going to a few of them, but I want to hear, we're going to get into them. Or, you know what, let's just start with one of the craziest ones, or one of the coolest ones, which was guided frame. So this is all meant for accessibility, and specifically for those who are vision impaired. The phone and the camera will direct you where to move the phone in order to frame it well. This was like a very moving piece that they put in there, and this is just so fantastic. I mean, last year they introduced real tone, which made the phone, which brought like those with like darker skin tones. It allowed like exposure to work better in those ways. And this year they're just bringing in another feature to be more inclusive than ever. What do you think of this, Lexi? Hello. Oh, okay, Bridget, were you there?
All right. Well, Lexi
What do
comes
you what do
back to
you
us.
think of the real tone? I mean, of the
Okay.
guided frame.
Okay, the guided frame. This is interesting. You have like all this talk about taking your old photos and making them better again, even erasing items in the past. I don't know about erasing history. It felt very Marty McFly, Back to the Future vibes there. But I mean, fascinating that I want to put it to the test. I want to take all my old printed photos, the old photos I took on my phone somewhere in a drawer, from the back of the day, and see how it's actually how the whole branding of like improved by pixel, fixed by pixel, how can it do that? And then at the same time, it's like they're saying we're going to remove blur and sharpen images. But if you want video, we're going to add blur. So blur is kind of like a little bit of a theme today. Like take out blur in your photo, add some blur in your video, and it all kept coming back and back and back to that new Tensor G2, right? So like we keep going, all right, what's new with the phone? And it's like, okay, all these new tricks are because of that new processor. So whether you want, the cinematic, blur, which is what I was talking about with, having that depth of field, or active stabilization, being able to zoom in incredible ways where you are getting just incredible sharpness as you go more and more into your zoom. I found that really piqued my interest. I was pretty impressed by the talk. You kind of have to always put it to the test yourself. But when you're looking at these examples on screen of people, over was it 10 or 15 times zoom, still being very clear by compositing the different camera shots all together and stitching it. And here we're seeing an example of what we were talking about earlier by taking an old photo, and the computer processing is kind of like filling in to make it more crisp and clear. That it is fascinating, and how much will we get use out of that by how many people are going to be going through their old photos and doing that. I think I would for a few, though.
Yeah, and on the note of the G2 processor, just a couple facts. The machine learning is supposed to be 60% faster, and it's supposed to be 20% more efficient, and it lowers the power function for videos and speech recognition. So that G2 chip is going to be very powerful and is going to be seen in the Pixels and the tablet. Lexi, was there anything specific when it came to the camera features and upgrades that stuck out to you with the Pixels?
Yes, hopefully my microphone is working and behaving now, so I can chat about the cameras, which is, again, one of my favorite parts of the Pixel line. And it's really kind of what sets the Pixels apart, or at least has traditionally from many of the other phones on the market. I think for me, the most intriguing part is actually how Google's giving you effectively a really long range of focal lengths to choose from. So if you're a photographer and you usually use a smartphone camera, you're somewhat restricted, or at least you were in the past. Now, the effective equivalent focal length that you're getting on the Pixel 7 Pro, at least, is 12 to 240 millimeters. So that's from the ultra wide through to the full extent of the zoom. And I think that that is a really nice way to kind of give people what they want in terms of not necessarily having to carry around multiple lenses or a DSLR. If you don't want to, you can simply have that flexibility in your pocket. Obviously, the computational photography tricks that you also talked about just now is really the other part of the equation. It's not just hardware. Interestingly enough, there are two kind of higher resolution sensors on the Pixel 7 Pro. So there's the 48 megapixel and then the 50 megapixel for the main and telephoto, respectively. Oh, sorry, I got that reversed. It's the 50 megapixel main camera and the 48 megapixel telephoto lens. And it's using a very similar technique to what we saw on the 14 Pro from Apple's iPhone, in which it's giving you that 2 times effective focal length, or optical zoom, quote unquote. I use optical in quotes because it's not really optical. It's just cropping into that center part of the sensor to give you the same sort of effective quality as it would be from an optical zoom lens without needing to have that 2 times zoom. Obviously, you can get the 5 times optical lens through the telephoto camera as well, and the super res zoom, or the computational magic that goes on behind the scenes to kind of help give you even more focal length than that. But the one thing that Google didn't mention that I did sneak around and look in the kind of the spec sheets, and Stephen Shankland on CNET has done a great deep dive into the Pixel 7 Pro cameras. If you're really into photography or just curious about it, I definitely recommend you check it out. So the 7 Pro uses a technique called pixel binning. It's essentially kind of merging multiple pixel sites into one to create a more detailed image. Now, it's got a 50 megapixel sensor and a 48 megapixel sensor, but you're not actually going to ever be able to take a photo at that resolution. It's always going to be a pixel binned image, even if you shoot in RAW. I'm getting kind of like in the weeds here, and maybe no one else cares about this, but the fact that you're not going to be able to get that raw image, at least from the first party camera, maybe third party camera apps will open that world up later. I'm kind of disappointed about that. And I'm hoping that the camera is going to be so amazing and so wow, even that, that pixel bin image is going to make me go, okay, 12 megapixels is more than enough. But I like having the flexibility of shooting at the full resolution of the sensor in RAW. If you're a fellow photographer and you also want that, like, I want to hear from you. Am I just making a big deal out of nothing? Because I want all of that resolution at my disposal, especially when I want to edit things. So something that they didn't say in the keynote, that I did find in the spec sheet. More testing to be done. But interesting that Apple will let you get that full 48 megapixel resolution from the sensor when you shoot in RAW mode or Pro RAW with the 14 Pro and 14 Pro Max. So something to do in the testing component when we do our camera comparisons. I got so geeky there. I'm so sorry.
No, you're good. That was super interesting. Yeah. One thing that I was really happy to see was the ability to use the Pixel Watch in order to take a photo using the Pixel phones. Apple introduced this a few years ago, and it's one of my favorite features. It's also one of my favorite things to like show people how to do, because they like I find a lot of people don't even know that you can do it. It's like my favorite little trick. And I also have a comment from Alfonso. He was disappointed there wasn't a one more thing. Oh, that is the wrong comment. I was going to read G-Spec. The watch selfie framing was pretty cool. He agrees. And we did have another comment here. Oh no, we'll get into that later. Okay, let's see. What else did one thing I did want to talk about was the active stabilization. Bridget, you brought this up earlier. This is something that I'm very eager to try out with the phone. I just tested out the action mode on the iPhone, which was introduced with the iPhone 14 Pro and in the 14, the entire lineup really. I would like to do a side-by-side to see how these stabilizations work. Basically, this is a feature that stabilizes action. So when you're running around and you're following people running or doing some parkour, in my video, I was running up rocks, I was swimming. It stays it similar to an action camera. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this performs on the phone, but I also want to see that side by side. I think that would be an interesting video to make. So keep your eyes on our YouTube channel, because you'll probably see me running around doing that as well. And specifically also when it comes to video on these phones, Google said that they worked closely with Snap, TikTok, and YouTube to make sure that the videos going up on those platforms look the most vibrant. So that's super interesting to see that that they're working with those brands. Well, not YouTube because they own YouTube, but it's cool to see that they're working with those brands though to see to make it so that the videos look their best. Also on that note, the cameras can record in 10-bit HDR video, which is fantastic. What
Justin,
else, Bridget? Was there? Yeah.
yeah, can I give a shout out here to a phone presentation that talked about talking on the phone? Like, thank you, Google, bringing it back. All this talk about all the different features they have with voice. Sure, their new processor can do a lot of things with voice assistance. On the Pixel 7, it'll even be able to I don't know about you guys. I actually do talk to text. Translate, because sometimes your hands are just full and just faster that way. And so they say that they've improved that and even can suggest emoji to insert. Like if you say woohoo, maybe you'll get hands doing the high five. But and they have all this call screening stuff, but clear calling, making it easier to hear people. It's kind of like taking the idea of machine learning noise cancellation, suppressing background noise to eliminate distracting sounds like wind or when you're on the subway, all that noise. So that'll be actually useful to people using their phones as phones. I love that.
Yeah, and we are also, I should talk about the prices because we haven't talked about that and people are asking. So both Pixel phones and I believe the watch, am I right, are available for pre-order today. The Pixel 7 starts at $599 and the Pixel 7 Pro is $899. And the watch, I said earlier, but I'll say it again, is starting at $349 and then $399 for that LTE upgrade as well. So
yeah,
let's get into.
I was gonna say with the phones. I mean, this is a fascinating little area that they jumped into. Pixel 7 starts cheaper than your other flagships from Samsung and Apple at the low end, but like the Pro, about $900 starting price. That's about the same. So they're going right up there with that Galaxy S22 Plus, that iPhone 14 Plus. They're right up there with their 7 Pro. But on the starter level, though, they are going in cheaper.
Lexi, were there any upgrades specifically to the hardware of the Pixel Pro that you wanted to speak on?
Well, it was really the camera hardware upgrades that was the main part. I mean, we talked a little bit about the Tensor chip. Again, the performance is going to kind of be the interesting other side of the equation, because I think Google only really mentioned the machine learning updates rather than kind of like pure grunt speed, things like that. So it's going to be a good test to see how this chip actually performs and also how it affects battery life as well. I feel like that's the one component that I wanted to hear a little bit more about, some battery optimization even further on maybe the Pro line to differentiate it. We saw obviously the face unlock, I think, is going to be the other really key component that I think will interest a lot of people. We kind of saw Google take a little bit of a stumble with kind of the face unlock methodology that was implemented on the Pixel 4. I don't know if you remember that, but you could, at least at launch, there was this kind of thing where you could unlock it with somebody's eyes were closed. So I'm hoping it's going to be a little bit more refined than that iteration, but I know Google has said that, yes, the most secure way to unlock your phone and to do things like authentication for, say, payment methods and stuff like that is going to be through using the fingerprint sensor that's in the screen. And I think the user experience in terms of getting the hardware and software to kind of integrate really seamlessly together is going to be key to how people really embrace the Pixel 7. I know for the Pixel 6, when it launched, there were kind of a few people that had some issues with, say, things like the fingerprint sensor, things with the battery life taking, several weeks to kind of optimize and really kind of get up there to give people kind of really understand usage patterns and things like that. And numerous software updates have come out since then. So I'm really hoping that straight out the gate, the 7 and the 7 Pro are kind of going to deliver on the Google experience that they're promising in terms of making all of that hardware and software talk together, and we don't have to have several iterations of software updates to kind of bring things kind of to the level where we expect. But really, I think it's that, that last thing that we kind of saw Google tease, which was the integration of kind of the ecosystem, was really kind of trying to show that you can have a Pixel phone, you can have a Pixel Watch, you can have the Pixel Buds and kind of be in this ecosystem, and you don't need to necessarily rely on pulling in other, Android compatible devices to be in this world. So it's a very similar way to kind of how we've seen Apple integrate that. So it was nice to see. Whether or not people are going to be intrigued enough to people who have a Pixel, who are going to get the Pixel Watch, I'm not sure. And we saw some kind of previews of bundle deals and things like that from countries outside of the US. So you buy a Pixel 7 Pro and you get like a heavily discounted Pixel Watch. So I think, in the US at least, I haven't seen as many of those kind of discounted kind of bundle deals. But I'm sure that there will be plenty of those available once we kind of go in and do some deep dives, and definitely stay tuned to CNET, because we'll try and do our best to get you kind of the tips and tricks on how to maximize things like your pre-orders and stuff like that. So I know that's my task after the show ends, is digging in and seeing how many ways that I can hack the system so I can make it so I can get as many of these devices to talk to each other in the way that I also can get as many bargains and discounts as possible. So we'll see. But a hot tip for anyone who's out there who's looking for an older Pixel device, maybe a 6 or a 6 Pro, heavily discounted right now. If you're interested in the Pixel ecosystem, but maybe the Pixel 7 and 7 Pro is a bit out of reach, you can find the Pixel 6 brand new for $200 in certain vendors and retailers. So there you go. You just got to have to hunt for it. It might be carrier locked, but hey, maybe that doesn't matter. $200 for a brand new Pixel 6. It ain't a bad deal. So keep an eye out for discounts out there.
We've got a new show coming out on CNET. It's going to be called Lexi's Deals. Stay tuned for that.
Yes.
And kind of what you were saying, Lexi, just about like the whole ecosystem. One thing that really stuck out to me during the show was when they were going full screen with like all the different color palettes. Like you can have the watch and the phone and all the accent colors, and then the shoes. I was like, I love accessories. I love accent colors. Like, sign me up for this design. Like, whoever was putting this marketing together, like, good on you. You did a great job. You had me. And then I just want to go back to the Pixel 7 Pro. One thing that did stick out to me was the variable refresh rate of 10 to 120 hertz. Now, the competition, the Galaxy S22 and the Apple iPhone 14 Pro, those both can go as low as 1 hertz, which really helps with saving battery life. So that's just something to be aware of. Now I want to switch gears to the Pixel 7. There were some upgrades there, specifically the smaller bezel, 25% better peak brightness. The front camera has a larger sensor, shoots in 4K. And the battery life, 72 hours of battery life with that extreme battery saver. That is a very high number. I'm not getting that on my phone, and there's no battery life saver so on my iPhone. So that is a pretty interesting feature that I'd like to know more about, and kind of hopefully in our reviews, which will be coming out soon, so make sure you subscribe to the channel. I hope that we cover that pretty in depth. I'm eager to hear about that. Bridget, was there anything specifically with the Pixel 7 that stuck out to you? Oh, you, Bridget.
Bridget is doing what I did. We lost Bridget's mic. Oh, she's
Okay, we
back.
lost Bridget's mic. Okay, great.
Right
You're back.
before the end. I was going to say, yes, I'm thinking a lot about that battery life because it sounds like it's something that has to do on what that processor is being able to be smarter about. And I found it also interesting that, yeah, they went quick on that face unlock. And, oh, yeah, you could also unlock with your face. Moving right along. I'm with you, Lexi, on that one. We got to see what that's all about. But overall, though, I do love the aspect that we went live with a stage show, so bringing that energy, making it feel a little more real. And I'm was left impressed with Google just kind of talking about how to make things work nice. And overall, I think they got something interesting. They're going in a new direction here with like just being all wrapped up into one, kind of talking more about how they could be more useful with the cameras. It always is about the cameras, right? When it comes to the Pixel. So yeah, I'm actually eager to see this in the wild, see how it works.
Now, before we go into our biggest moments for each of us, I want to bring up a poll. We had everyone on YouTube rate today's Google event. So for A+, we got 44%, B- 30%, E for effort, 13%, and C, we got 10%. That was with 301 votes. So it sounds like majority were higher up there. I love an E for effort too. I think that's pretty good. But let's go around and talk about what was our kind of favorite feature or our favorite upgrade. Let's start with you, Lexi.
Pixel Watch definitely is the one that we've been waiting for so many years in the wearables world. Like, so I can't even remember the first time that we heard the rumors about Google working on a Pixel branded smartwatch. And so it's finally here. I am so excited to get my hands on it and test it out. I think that there are a few things that I'm already like, I wish that we got XYZ. I wish that there was 1 year of Fitbit Premium included instead of 6 months, because if you've used a Fitbit device, you'll know that the company is really moving towards having that kind of subscription service to really unlock the key features that a lot of people are going to be looking at, including the deeper sleep metrics rather than kind of the more surface level ones. And probably my favorite Fitbit feature of all from the past year or so is the daily readiness score. And this calculates a bunch of things from your overall activity levels to your sleep and things like heart rate variability, and gives you an idea of whether or not you are ready to take on a workout or push yourself to kind of exercise a bit more, or you should give yourself a rest day and excuse yourself and stay in bed. It's honestly one of my favorite features, and that is in the Fitbit Premium paywall ecosystem. And I think for a lot of people coming to a Pixel Watch for the first time and having that data is going to be really interesting. And they're going to get to that 6 months and be like, okay, am I willing to pay an additional $10 a month after my initial payment of $349 or $399 in the US for the Pixel Watch? Is there enough of a value proposition there? I'm not really sure, because the total cost of ownership is going to get really, really high pretty quickly compared to a lot of the other smartwatches on the market that don't necessarily lock you into kind of that, broader ecosystem of getting more data by having to pay for it. Again, you don't have to use Fitbit Premium to get a lot of the information out of the Pixel Watch, but there are some key things that maybe you might think about it for. But again, if you're not interested in the fitness component, I think the Pixel Watch really has a lot of exciting things that people on the Android side are going to love, especially if they have been looking at other alternatives, say like the Samsung Galaxy watches or even older Wear OS watches, and they just haven't quite hit the mark for them. Maybe the Pixel Watch is going to be the one. I really hope it's going to be the holy grail of Android smartwatches. I really, really hope so. Please let it be. Let it be. Give the people what they want. Bridget, what about you? What was your highlight of the event?
For me, I was really taken aback by the super res zoom crops. Like, seeing those folks on the tennis field and just on the court and just having it zoom in incredible amounts, and it's like, okay, whatever you want, we have it sharp. Uh, that computational power, those composite images, that was very impressive. The kind of thing that gets people thinking twice about what kind of phone they're going to go with on their next upgrade.
Now, I would have to say my favorite would be the tablet and what they talked about with like the dock. I have always wanted like a really nice smart home command center, and the fact that this tablet now can not only, have a stand, but you can take it and walk around your house. I could like walk into each room and use this little tablet and have it be like my little smart home command center, and I can like go to each room and like use all the functionality. And I also like the new style of the Google Home app. I was saying earlier in our pre-show about how it's already was a pretty clean design, and it's why Google Home, Google Assistant were one of my favorite ways of using a smart home, of communicating with it. And having this tablet now not just be stuck like my Nest Hub Mini, yeah, it's a Mini at home that winds up just becoming a clock next to my bed. Now having this tablet, able to walk around, I'm very eager to try that out. I'd love to do a video on that. And then with the inclusion of their new Nest Wi-Fi and the doorbell, they're introducing more with Matter support. I'm very excited for Matter to come to all of their products and just the smart home in general. It's a very exciting time for the smart home. So yeah, I definitely will be expanding on that with my coverage over at CNET. But that about does it for our video on our live on CNET. We want to thank you for joining us today. If you've got questions about what was announced today, please let us know on Twitter. And if you're watching on YouTube right now, make sure you subscribe that button and click that bell so you can watch more CNET news and reviews. We're going to be cranking out a ton of videos comparing the specs of these products. You don't want to miss our first looks from everyone on the show floor. We'll be having those on the channel soon. I want to give you a big thanks, Bridget, Carey, Lexi Sipidis, our colleagues who called in, and to our show producers in the control room, BVG, Stephen Beecham, and Mariel Myers. Have a good one.